Greetings, race fans, and welcome to today's top split action from the Radical Esports Cup, presented by RaceSpotTV. JR Gregory here with you on the call, along with my partner, Racing Ron Mons, and our producer, Ramiro Agustin Cisneros. And the new year is here, and with it, 2026 Season 1, Week 3 takes us to Barcelona, Spain. The Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya was built in 1991 and hosted the Formula One Spanish Grand Prix that year. Along with F1, this track is current host to Grand Prix motorcycle racing, European Le Mans Series, the 24 Hours of Barcelona, GT World Challenge Europe, and TCR Europe. Today's configuration, 2.8 miles, 4.7 clicks, and 14 corners. Thankfully, omitting that awful chicane to go around turn 13. The track record on this configuration set by Max Verstappen back in 2023 was a 1:16.330, and Verstappen fans will know that Max won here in his very first Formula One outing, becoming the youngest ever winner in F1, the youngest podium finisher, and the first Dutchman to win a Formula One race. So, Ron, this season's schedule takes us to 7 past or present Formula One circuits, plus a couple of sports car classics, including Daytona and Mount Panorama. But to me, this track is unique on that list because so many corners require extreme patience putting power down on exit if you're expecting your tires to go the distance.
You know, it really is, JR. This track is one that I've never agreed with personally. I have my qualms about this circuit driving around it. It takes a very fine feel, but it is one of the tracks on iRacing where you can tell it is obviously used by motorcycles, but does have a good feel behind the wheel of a race car as well. You don't really have a track in the world that's anything like Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Doubly so with this lad. You've got the mix of high-speed sections, of course, that massively disproportionately long start-finish straightaway. But this track is a unique feel. You need a unique feel behind the wheel of any sort of race car to do well here. Thankfully, though, we do have some very unique race cars here in these Radical SR10s that always take a fine feel to race around. So even though I have never seen this combination in my nearly 3 years covering these Radical officials, I have a feeling this is maybe going to be a kind of like a secret, sneaky match made in heaven.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. These Radicals have massive amounts of horsepower for their weight, massive amount of mechanical grip, and that long straightaway. We beat this like a dead horse every time we're on one of these broadcasts and see a long straight, but that pit straight, very, very long here. The slipstream, almost comical. You get within 6 or 7 tenths to the car ahead, and it feels like you're being towed by an invisible rubber band that whips you past that other driver. So we're going to see lots of leapfrogging, lots of passing on that start-finish straight, and some contested entries into turn 1, which is always interesting. You cover the inside there to try to defend turn 1 and give your opponent the inside line on turn 2, and that's going to lead us to some fantastic and exciting racing out here today.
Yeah, and thinking about the races that we have already seen up to this point in the 2026 Season 1 calendar, of course, last time at Alton Park, that was a fantastic race. Sebring to get the season up and rolling, that was a pretty darn good race. And this track, even though it's one that we haven't seen these cars race at before, it has that same sort of feeling. Really draft heavy, but a lot of challenge thrown in the midst as well. This is going to be a driver's race.
Yeah, absolutely is. And I'll tell you what, folks, as the session winds down here, I'd like to remind everybody that this is not a private or a league event. We are broadcasting the iRacing officials here at 2100 GMT as we do every Friday. So if you'd like to give these Radicals a whirl, practice up, show up, and sign up. And if you make the top split, you can appear both on RaceSpotTV and the official iRacing YouTube channel along some of the best Radical drivers in the world. And speaking of that, you just saw Ryan Odo throw down an absolute heater. Odo showing a 136.6, and every time Ryan shows up, you always know we're in for a good race. He's not always available because his time's being consumed by his studies currently, but when school is on break, he is out here and he is given lessons in wheeling these Radicals, and it looks like he's got something going here at Barcelona.
Yeah, he really does. Looking like a good pole time. We'll see if the likes of James Berry, Christoph Lipp, or really anybody else in this field can usurp that. Speaking of James Berry and Christoph Lipp, as we see a spin from Joaquin Marins, that's heading off through the mid-sector. I believe that's coming out of turn number 7, where he just spun there. We'll certainly touch on that section a little bit later on here in this broadcast. But I want to point this out. James Berry and Christoph Lipp, currently qualified 2nd and 3rd, 1,000th of a second between them. Even though we haven't seen this racetrack get used before here on these radicals, and really it doesn't get a lot of love on iRacing, period. Maybe the fact that this is a venture off into the unknown for these racers is a reason why it is so apocalyptically tight all throughout this field.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you that the other thing about Barcelona to me is, in terms of learning it, not a lot of variety out here. It seems like they throw the same type of corner at you over and over again, kind of these mini carousels, constant radius that challenge you to trail break in and then challenge your patience, making you wait seemingly forever to put the power down, especially on turn 3, which has always kind of been a thorn in my side driving out here.
Yeah, I think the best way I can compare this racetrack, it's like a Rubik's Cube in a sense. You need to put in a little bit of thought to actually try and crack the code and solve it. If you can, though, it is pretty much going to feel like you can do it with your eyes covered. So I think that is probably a good fitting comparison to describe this track. It's a unique feel to a unique circuit, puts on a different blend of racing, shall we say, and looking forward to seeing this venture off into the unknown here for week 3 of the Radicals.
Yeah, too right. And as we wait for our cars to grid up, if you're not familiar with this Radical SR10, this is one of the purest sports car experiences on iRacing, propelled by 450 4-cylinder turbo, 1,000 pounds lighter than an MX-5 Cup car, no TC, no ABS, and these cars are a handful. But let's go ahead and run through that starting grid. Ryan Odo has captured the pole. He'll line up next to James Berry in row 1. Then it's Christoph Lipp next to Peter Ivani. Havard Gullikson will line up next to Heinz Braun in row 3. Then it's Andreas Friedrich next to Tim Berti in 7 and 8. Kettle Larson will line up next to Jonas Axpo in 9 and 10. Then it's Pierre Scholl next to George Gonzaga in 11 and 12. Alexander Vermevich, apologies, Alex, will line up next to Jonas Schneider in row 7. Then it's Grigor Kinski next to Aaron Sipos. Anthony Kiernan next to Joaquin Martins in 18 and 19. And then Ole Gullikson will bring up the rear by himself in position 19. So we're waiting to get the grid assembled here. iRacing will force the start here momentarily. And not quite sure who we're looking at there. That is Odo. And it looks like Ron Odo is going to have the outside line off the start into turn 1. And of course, remember, folks, as I said, no traction control, no anti-lock brakes. So job 1 is to get these cars off the line clean and put down that 450 turbocharged horsepower, which can be a struggle at times. Not anticipating too much problem here, but definitely take some expertise to get these things moving as we wait for the lights to come on and week 3 to begin at Barcelona. And here we go. Looks like a fairly clean start, although Odo a little bit slow off the line. Odo's going to be challenged on the outside by Christoph Lipp. Teammates Berry and Lipp have got Odo in a sandwich there. Berry will have the advantage on the inside. 3 wide now into turn 1. A big hit, and is he going to take somebody with him? A bowling ball. That is a 7-10 split right off the start. Nobody wanted their race to start that way. Odo's going to get away with that one somehow. Thought for sure that Lipp and or Berry were going to have a crack at him, but Odo gets away clean, and a couple cars there definitely did not.
Yeah, the 7-10 split heading down into 1 and 2. The grease lane sending drivers off the track in rather big fashion. Peter Evany, your race winner last time out at Alton Park, already out of contention, down the pit lane at the moment, slotted in P19. But I gotta say, JR, and this is honest, Ryan Odo holding on to the race lead, even with the start that he had, finding himself in the midst of a huge hornet's nest downtown into turn number 1. The fact he's still holding on to the race lead is absolutely astonishing as we take a look to see this replay here of what happened to Tim Berti. He got punted off, hit the inside wall. Actually, no, he didn't, and then bang, clobbering multiple drivers out of the way. He only clobbered one driver, but I think Heinz Braun, in the midst of that code brand moment, fired off into the side of, I believe that was Andreas Friedrich that he hit.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, Bertie definitely had help there. It got punted by a red car behind. Not sure who that was, but that is certainly the guilty party in that whole situation. And you were too right about Ryan Odo, and I don't want to make too much out of his age, but he is a youngster out here. And one of the most impressive things about Odo, given his age, bang, there it is. And that's Exhibit 1 in a murder trial, as you see that bowling ball action into turn 1. But Odo is very impressive for his pace, but also extremely impressive for his ability to stay frosty under pressure. You saw it illustrated very well right there.
Yeah, and for the past 2 seasons, the past 2 years, in fact, in the Radical Americas Championship that we cover here on RaceSpot, JR, you've gotten the opportunity to drive alongside Ryan Odo out there on the racetrack, as I've gotten the ability to cover him in that series. And we see him occasionally pop into these officials as well. Very young racer. He knows how to run these cars. He actually hosts coaching sessions, like open coaching sessions to people on iRacing to try and give them a good idea as to how it is to drive these Radical SR10s. Very talented racer in his own right, 2-time reigning vice champion in that series, finished second in 2024 to Lucas Vieira, and finished second to Aiden Young this past year in 2025. And Aiden Young eventually went on to become the pro champion in the Radical Sim Racing World Finals. So it's not a bad thing to say that Ryan Odo has finished second, because he has finished pretty much on the doorstep of some of the best drivers that we have here on iRacing. He is a very talented racer in his own right. This is going to be a test, though, to see if he can hold on. So we take a look at more drama for Vermeersch there, involved in that in the number 19 car. I'm trying to think, was that about 8 drivers involved in separate incidents down to turn number 1? Because it sure looked like it.
Yeah, it really did. And yeah, great point about Odo Ryan. Ron, very generous with his time, volunteers to coach and make his opponents faster. And unfortunately for me, what I would need in addition to coaching is to go back in time about 45 years. My reflexes at this point not really up for getting the most out of these SR10s. Very, very twitchy, fun to drive fast, but when you are truly wheeling them at the pointy end of the field, you are on the knife's edge all the way around the track on every lap.
And, you know, I will say, JR, and this is honest, I feel like I would need to go in a time machine as well. And, you know, that's saying something, considering I'm only 21. I remember driving these cars shortly after I got out of the kart, and I felt like I could kind of get that same sort of feel. The one thing, I think one of the main things in this SR10 that I was just able to hit the ground running with, and it's a point that we saw get raised there right off the bat with Ryan Odo not exactly getting the best start and nearly getting chewed up and spat out by the inert teams. The starts in these cars, very finicky. You mentioned no traction control, no ABS, so that run down into turn number 1, which is always the longest run down into the first turn on the F1 calendar, as maybe the longest run to turn number 1 that we have from this Radical SR10 calendar here in Season 1 of 2026. It's super important to get off to a good start. And I think the main reason I was able to always nail the starts in my time running the SR10s was just down to the fact that I got to have a shifter kart not too long ago, and getting off the line there, you pretty much just have to fry the clutch and slip it all the way through. Oh boy, look at James Berry trying to get moved on to Ryan Odo.
Oh, and Barry does stick it through there. He might have caught Odo unaware. That's not a spot we usually see side-by-side action, but Barry, the little professor, sees a crack of light there, and he is apt to pounce. Seen a little bit more aggression out of him this year than we have in past seasons. He told us in race 1 that this was going to be a season where he devoted the time to try to get that season championship. He's a 4-time past championship. Can't always grind out the practice to finish in P1, but this season he wants to get it done, and you saw a really nice and aggressive move there that definitely caught Odo by surprise.
And you got to think about it as well, JR. You know, I'm not somebody who considers himself to be very superstitious, but I do kind of look into the numbers on a lot of stuff more often than not. You think about the last even year that we had here in the world, 2024, James Berry won 3 championships during that year alone in seasons 2, 3, and 4 of 2024 on iRacing. So who knows, maybe hitting the ground running in 2026. He's shown some pace already, nearly won at Alton Park, did pretty well at Sebring too. He's been quick throughout the season and is looking to flex his muscles throughout the season. Maybe not win the championship through sheer domination that we've seen from the likes of Andre Castro in seasons past, but I think right now he's just looking to keep in those consistent runs and just be consistently smooth, consistently up in the front, always contending for race wins, but not throwing too much at the wall. Because if you throw something at the wall, who knows how long it's going to be until that wall eventually gives out.
Yeah, too right. And you're right about maybe some other drivers having some raw pace advantage on Berry out here. But if Berry can do a whole season finishing P1 and P2 out of 8 races, 4 drops, of course, that is enough to get the championship done. Anytime you're in a season setting, consistency always trumps raw pace, and James Berry is nothing if not consistent.
Oh yeah, he is a super consistent racer, but Ryan Odo is going to give him a bit of a challenge. I think Odo, though, has a bit of a challenge of his own. Now, throughout this broadcast, Ryan Odo has been quick, grabbed the pole position, started up towards the front, was running strong early, but now he finds himself, in a somewhat unfamiliar position, at least in terms of this session. He's in dirty air. And now these SR10s, we always talk about the draft, and we're most certainly going to be talking about the draft throughout this broadcast in the final 11 laps of this race. But with this track being the way it is, the inverse is true. The dirty air coming off of these cars can be rather immense. So Ryan Odo is probably dealing with a race car that feels entirely different from how it did a matter of a handful of laps ago when he was the one being the hole punch instead of following the hole punch.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way the draft works on these cars, you can see it in our timing tower. Odo right now about a half second off pace of every car down to P10 because he did not have the benefit of the draft on any of those laps. It is so huge on these things as we riding along now with that looks like Havard Gullikson looking ahead at Lip, Odo, and Berry. And you're absolutely right. Berry kind of went from the Odo rather went from the frying pan into the fire. Berry got through, and now he has perennial pointy end alien Christoph Lip in his rearview mirror and cranking that gap down. It's under a minute, and next time we come onto the front straight, Christoph may be in a good position to put that draft to work, challenge Odo for P2 into turn 1.
This is a powerhouse top 4 that we've got at the current moment, isn't it, JR? We got James Berry, a 4-time past champion here in these Radical Esports Cup official races. You got Ryan Odo, of course, very talented behind the wheel of these cars. You got Christoph Lip as that number 1 on his race car for a very good reason. Very highly rated driver on iRating. Very fast driver in these SR10s. I believe, if my memory serves me correctly as well, he actually walked away with the 2025 Radical European Championship, along with being the 2024 Radical World Finals champion. Very quick racer in his own right. And then you've got Havard Gullikson. As much as James Berry is looking to return to championship contention and championship winning form, Havard Gullikson is looking to do the same. In season 1 of 2025, he was able to capture his first and so far only crown in these official series races. I think he wants to try and go back to that. He's shown some speed over the past couple of seasons, but we haven't really seen the same spark out of him since about season 2 of last year. So look at Havard Gullikson, current rear gunner of this pack. He may have some assistance with his teammate Kyle Larson behind in the not too far off future, but look at Gullikson to maybe pounce here soon.
Yeah, that is too right. And something that if you're not in this, something that's kind of hard to appreciate is the time commitment to make things happen here in these season-long Radical Esports Cup events at the pointy end of the field. I mean, these guys are not just hopping on the couch and grabbing the controller as we watch Odo surviving that race start. They're great on the brakes there by Odo. But yeah, these guys aren't just like spontaneously, I think I'll hop into this race. They are putting in the time. They're putting in massive amounts of practice time in order to run up in the top 5. These are very, very high-rated drivers. These are the best Radical Esports Cup drivers in the world, and if you want to get serious about contending for a title, it is a huge time commitment, and frankly, these drivers can't do it season after season. They kind of have to pick and choose when they're going to go for it and when they're going to kind of relax and let a season get by them.
And looking at the drivers that we have got in this field, a lot of them are the ones that run in the championships, the Radical Sim Racing Championships, either in the Americas Championship in the case of Ryan Odo, or the European Championship in the likes of James Berry, Christoph Lipp, Havard Gullikson, Kettle Larson, Heinz Braun, George Gonzaga. You had a lot of racers throughout this field that are usually gunning for those year-long crowns. So right now that season is currently inactive. We'll probably have some news of that nature a little bit later on in this season, fingers crossed. But as we're going through the proverbial off season in the Radical world, a lot of those racers are still going to keep their skills sharp running these officials, which gives them a unique test and a unique challenge. We've seen racers who do very well in those Radical Sim Racing leagues, either the European or America's Championship, run super well in these officials, and we've seen the inverse be true as well. Andre Castro, a two-time past champion in these officials, ran in the World Finals a couple of months ago and really struggled. It's a different animal, really, these officials, and helps keep these racers on their toes even in lean years.
Yeah, absolutely does. And you mentioned the Americas and European Championship. If you stop by RadicalSimRacing.com as we take a look at Gonzaga, almost getting a little smooch there by Pierre Scholl. Scholl just avoiding making contact right there. That would have been a disaster for both, as Jonas Schneider watching from behind, ready to pick up the pieces. But yeah, go to RadicalSimRacing.com and look into those leagues. There's a European and Americas year-long championship, and that's going to be starting up in February. So if you'd like to test the waters in that league, go ahead and stop by RadicalSimRacing.com, look over the website, and sign up for that. That is broadcast on RaceSpot as well, and we'll be looking forward to covering those. But as we chat away up here, we're on lap 9 of 16, and Gonzaga, you see him dragging the tire there. The pressure from behind, Scholl's pressure, a little bit too much. He locks up a front wheel, and that is going to allow Scholl and Snyder through. That will drop George down to P9, which is still up 3 from his qualifying position. But up front, we've got Barry from Odo, from Christoph Lipp. We have 8 laps here remaining, and with this long straightaway run, sometimes I wonder whether or not Lipp is just happy sitting here in P3, biding his time, not fighting, and could be saving it potentially for the last lap. It's very, I won't say very easy, but it's definitely doable to get a twofer down into turn 1 because of the huge draft here at Barcelona.
Oh, it absolutely is. I'm thinking now, which is why you can smell the smoke, this is maybe the longest straightaway that we have on the entirety of this calendar. I think it's probably up there on the list, and we know that these SR10s can be strong. I've seen a driver running in third, able to jump their way into the race lead just in the run-up, heading down to the bus stop chicane of Watkins Glen. So if you're running in third at the start of this straightaway, and now granted, you have to get a good run hang out of the final corner. You can't really get a move done if you're stationary heading out of it. You could really make something work, and even if it doesn't work there, you still have the back straightaway and the long run-up heading into that turn where you can get a move done. For instance, look at what George Gonzaga just did in that replay, heading down to turn number 10. Slightly different from the version that Formula 1 uses, a bit more open on this layout, a bit higher speed, but still a heavy braking zone in these SR10s. And JR, you know as well as I do that the brakes are usually a little bit tough to manage in these SR10s. So if you want to capitalize on a driver's mistake, those heavy braking zones are a real good chance to do it.
Yeah, too right. And while it is a fixed setup, you, of course, have control over brake bias. And I think some of these drivers are adjusting their brake bias per corner. That's how kind of technical brake operation is on these things. They have significant amount of downforce that assists you in braking until the speed drops off. So not only do you have to learn where threshold braking is, you have to learn how to bleed off brake pressure as you decelerate and lose downforce. So there is There's a lot of learning that can be done on these cars, Ron, and as I say, week in and week out, mastery of the Radical SR10 will make you better at every car that you drive on the iRacing service. And my goodness, look at Christoph Lipp now all over Ryan Odo. That gap all the way down to under 0.3, and with 7 laps remaining here, Lipp may be measuring up Odo for a pass as he sees Barry getting away. Barry having dropped Odo to the tune of 1.5 seconds, and so if Lipp wants to get through Odo and catch Barry, he needs to jump on it soon, and he also needs to get rid of that visor shield so that we can see a little better.
Will he be able to close it up? Look at the closing rate as they head their way down to turn number 1. The draft in these SR10s, I will never be able to get over it, having driven them for as long as I have, having covered them for as long as I have. We both started off on these Radical SR10 official broadcasts roughly at the same time. I think you got into it right at the end of my first full-time season back in season 2 of 2023. But the draft is always so insane to look at here in these cars. I will never be able to get fully used to, because it looks like the drivers just kick on the hyper jets and just go to warp speed. As soon as they get a little bit closer, they just go. Pick up probably about 10-15 miles an hour. It looks like. It's always so insane seeing these draft heavy cars. It's probably in the top 3 drafters in my book in terms of road course cars that run only on road courses. It's up there with that, the Spec Racer Ford, and the Formula V as absolute draft monsters. But unlike the SRF and the FV, these cars actually have power.
Yeah, they totally do. And, you know, you're right about that draft. At times it feels almost comical, like you suddenly have 50 more horsepower, have DRSs or something of that nature. And that has actually led to some discussion over on the Radical Discord server, whether or not it's realistic. And we have a number of real life Radical racers involved in the leagues and involved in these 2100 GMT broadcasts. And they piped up and confirmed that when you're on the track in one of these in real life, that's what the draft is like. It's part of the design, aero design of the car, and it certainly makes for great racing. And look at Christoph Lipp closing down on Odo. He definitely lifted there. He had an opportunity, but he's probably watching that lap counter right now. Barry may be beyond his reach right now, and he may be measuring up Odo for a pass to go into P2 down the stretch here, Ron.
Yeah, I think these racers that we have in this camera shot right now are maybe going to start to give up and settle for second, because James Barry has driven away. He's still in the same camera shot, but a 1.8 second gap in a Radical, it's by no means insurmountable. We have seen far bigger gaps get closed up in the blink of an eye because of a mistake, but James Barry, he's usually a very calm, cool, and collected customer, so mistakes can be a little bit rare on his end. But as it stands right now, if everybody keeps it clean, it looks like it'll go the way of James Barry. The first time, in fact, that he'll be able to visit victory lane in these SR10s in quite some time. I'm looking back on my stat sheet. I believe it was actually week 3 last season, that race being at Imola, where he was able to grab the victory. So interesting to note that
is. And I'll tell you, I kind of sold Barry as a strategist more than somebody with outright pace, but I don't mean to demean his pace at all. Looking at his lap times, he is running 136.6, 136.7 like a human metronome, and he's doing that without the benefit of the draft. He is all alone up front, obviously, and is still managing to turn in faster lap times by several tenths as compared to the people behind him. It could be that Odo here is holding up Lipp, and you know, on that count, I'm a little surprised we haven't seen Lipp make a move yet. But as you pointed out, Ron, you know, he may kind of have resolved himself that second is as high as he's going to get as Barry drives off.
Yeah, Barry driving away, and that gap will continue to grow if these racers start to battle very hard. Look at Ryan Odo going full commitment, 10 tenths, heading off through turn number 7. Keep an eye on that anti-cut sausage curb on the exit of it. He grazed it a little bit, got a terrible exit, and here comes Christoph Lipp looking for the move around the outside downtown to turn number 10. He's going to get the move done, and look at Gullickson closing up. Weren't expecting that.
Wow, Gullickson, the opportunist there. I thought he had that one as he followed Lip through, and Odo able to get a little better speed there across the apex. You see the wiggle there, though. Odo's tires starting to protest here down the stretch as they do. These races are short, but if you flog these SR10s for the entire sprint race, you are going to lose your tires. And up top here is a replay of the move that Lip put on Odo, and as Ron pointed out, that was due in part to Odo kind of getting a little sloppy, getting a little loose there, and getting a poor exit. And there is Gullickson's attempt to get through there, and Odo says, oh no, one at a time, please. So right now, it is James Berry from Lip, from Odo, the gap ahead of Christoph Lip to James Berry, 2.5 seconds. And, you know, as you pointed out, Ron, James Berry does not make unforced errors, does not have solo spins or make mistakes. So I think that P1 is pretty safe for him right now with 3 laps remaining.
Yeah, and currently holding on to an inert racing team 1-2 at the moment. So that's pretty cool to see for them. They are always stable powerhouses in these SR10s. So looking to keep that rolling now is, I gotta say, and this is honest, I think this is a battle to keep our eyes on. Ryan Odo and Havard Gullickson. Of course, Odo was running in second just a matter of 1 lap ago. Christoph Lip has dropped him to the tune of 1.1, nearly 1.2 seconds in just 1 lap alone. And I'm seeing some sliding from Ryan Odo that I don't like to see in these SR10s. There is a fine line, a razor-thin margin that you've got to run in these SR10s. It's a very small envelope. You can only fit a business card in there. If you can fit in there comfortably, you're fine. If not, you may be in for a bit of trouble. Saw some moments throughout that lap for Ryan Odo that had me questioning whether or not he could hold on to that final podium spot. He ran wide out of turn number 3, had another trip up heading out 7 through 8 with that curve that got him a little bit squirrely last lap, but it looks like something has maybe gone wrong with Havard Gullickson, because at the moment, Gullickson is probably feeling more pressure from his teammate right behind than he's applying pressure to Odo.
Yeah, coming onto the pit straight that time, Gullickson, that gap up to Odo had expanded all the way to 0.7 or 0.8, and you saw it come down to about 0.5 due to the slipstream. But yeah, I'm surprised as well, Ron. I saw Odo with a couple of bobbles there, maybe taking a bit too much curb in a spot or two, and would have thought that Gullickson would be able to take advantage and close that gap down, but it really hasn't happened as it sits at 0.7 right now. So it looks like Odo is kind of taking some chances driving on the edge, but he's managing to maintain the gap behind. You know, sometimes when you're really flogging these things and sliding around, they've got a lot of power, but they don't have enough power to make up for really big slides. So as you pointed out, it is a fine line how much slip angle you want to run and how much you want to flog and drift these things. It looks cool to see him drift around the corner and run, but it is not the quickest way around the course.
You know, another bad comparison, talking about this racetrack being like a Rubik's Cube. This car is kind of like a cat. If you treat the cat well, if you feed it on time, you give it the right scratches on the back, the cat's gonna love you. If not, the cat will probably eat you the moment that you pass away. That's the thing with these SR10s. They can be soft and cuddly at some points in time, but if you don't treat them right, they will bite your head off.
All right. And a racing Ron Mon, folks, Sultan of the simile, master of the metaphor, and analogical anarchist. But James Berry has taken the white flag. It is Berry from Lip, from Odo. And the action right now is Odo, as I said, has done a pretty good job maintaining that gap back to Gullickson. Now Gullickson getting pressure from behind from his teammate Kettle Larson, you see, in that IGL coatings machine. So that may be about the biggest battle that we have here on the final lap down the stretch for that third step of the podium, currently occupied by Havard Gullickson. So it's Berry, 2 seconds back to Christoph Lip, about 1.5 seconds back to Gullickson, and 1.2 or 1.3 from Gullickson back to Larson. So we are going to watch this final lap together, but barring an immense commentator's curse, James Berry is going to take the checker on this one in a masterful race. Got past Odo very well and was able to drive away from Odo without the assistance of the draft. So a great performance on this one by James Berry.
Yeah, it has been frankly, a faultless drive from him. Now, I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to give him a commentator jinx, because believe me, I've done that enough. But as he heads his way out of the second's last corner, it looks like it's going to be a return to victory lane for James Barry as he try and eyeballs 2026 as a return to championship prowess.
Yeah, and there we go. James Barry has won this one in dominant fashion. Ran in P2 for a while, dispatched Ryan Odo, and drove away. And as I said, Barry told us in week 1 that he had this season the time set aside on his calendar to make big things happen in terms of the championship, and he has gotten off to a very good start here. It is Barry from Lip, from Odo, from Gullikson, from Kettle Larson, then Braun, Scholl, Gonzaga, Snyder, and Andreas Friedrich will round out your top 10. We'll have the whole finishing order for you here in a second, but pretty good race here at Barcelona, Ron. I was a little perplexed by the incidents early in turn 1. Don't usually see that kind of stuff in the top split here, but once everybody got in their groove, some pretty good racing out here.
Yeah, I know that's the first time in probably my entire broadcasting career that I have seen a round of bowling of that variety heading down to turn number 1 here. That was kind of similar shades to what happened to, I believe it was Vita Antonio Liuzzi back in the 2011 Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Got punted off into a spin, spun off into the dirt, and the next thing you know, it's a freight train of cars going off the track in rather dramatic fashion. I will give love to Heinz Braun, though. He was in the midst of that. He nearly got clobbered. He ended up walking away with nearly a top 5.
Yeah, Braun dodging some flaming barrels there. But here are your results. It is James Barry winning dominantly for that inert racing team. Then Christoph Lipp, Ryan Odo, Havard Gullikson, and Kettle Larson rounding out the top 5. Then Heinz Braun, Pierre Scholl, George Gonzaga, Jonas Schneider, and Andreas Friedrich will get you through the top 10. Then it's Grigor Kinski, Aaron Sipos, Anthony Kiernan, Ole Gullikson, Alexander Veremivich, I did it again, in P15, Joaquin Martins, Peter Vanyi, Tim Berti, and Jonas Axbo there. Bertie and Axbo obviously in that bowling for dollars incident at the beginning of the race, but a pretty good one out there today. And taking a look out in the interview room, our drivers starting to show up to share their thoughts about today's race with us. And we'll go ahead and start with today's winner, James Barry. James, fantastic outing out there today. I think my comment while we were watching that one unfold is we're seeing a little bit more aggression out of you this season. I saw an aggressive move out of you at Sebring, a pretty aggressive pass on Odo that obviously caught him unaware. He didn't think you were going to try it there. So it looks like you've got some good stuff going. Once you got ahead, you were able to drive away despite driving without the assistance of the draft. So talk to us a little bit about your race at Barcelona.
Yeah, I mean, you know me, JR. Yeah, I am someone who likes to pick the right moment to do things. But sometimes the right moment is just right there in front of you. And with Ryan there, he was making little mistakes all the time. He was fast, of course. And in those last 2 corners, I was getting a bit of dirty air. It was a bit hard to follow. But just making these little errors on every lap, he was a couple of times a lap. So I just knew I had to get by him. I'll admit it, I've already got the championship in mind. I've got Christoph behind me. I want to get a car between me and him at that point, so I just want to go for it at that point. And I knew I wanted to win the race, and I knew I could be probably more consistent than Ryan was. I think I've seen it from him in the past. I guess he's extremely fast, but I guess a bit more aggressive than I am. And I knew that if I can get in front of him, I should be able to control the race from there. Well, hoped.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hoped is the word, but yeah, I was in the end. Yeah, it was really good after that.
Yeah, and we were kind of discussing before, some of Odo's youthful pace may come from his superhuman reflexes, because he was definitely flogging that radical and looked a little sloppy in a number of spots, and you observed that from right behind him. And so when that window cracked open just a little bit, you were there and stuck that car down the inside. Awesome move. And again, a great job driving away once you had that P1, and Odo was then holding up Lip, who couldn't quite get a move done. So really masterful race, great racecraft out of you as always, James. So congratulations on that. And as we wrap up, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to today?
I don't think so. I'll shout out, if he's watching, I'll shout out Christopher. Oh, I think, yeah, Christopher messaged me this morning for a little coaching session. So this morning I was just giving him a little coaching session. He's new to the Radical, and it was really fun. Just helping him out, and it was good practice for myself. So if he's watching, yeah, shout out to you, mate. And yeah, that's it.
All right, excellent. Yeah, and I'll tell you, as somebody who's instructed in real life, there's something about teaching that increases your own knowledge. In order to express something to somebody else, you got to understand it better. So it's you definitely can get faster by helping other people get faster. But anyway, James, thanks so much for stopping by, and great race again, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers, yeah, and make sure the thumbnail's the correct thumbnail this time.
Absolutely. We'll freeze it right there and make sure that one is on the iRacing channel for at least 24 hours. Take care, James.
See you. Bye.
All right, Ron. And I got Ryan Odo for you, sir.
Yeah, Ryan Odo now joining us here on the broadcast booth. Ryan, welcome in. It's a pretty tough racetrack, this, but you're able to walk away with a P3 after a wild start. So how about you talk us through this race today here at Barcelona?
Yeah, it wasn't the race that I wanted. I mean, I qualified P1, and then James was behind me. He sent a move. I didn't fight it too hard because I thought I had the pace to stay with him. Apparently I didn't. He just drove off into the distance. And then I got a slowdown, and Christoph got by me, which was unfortunate. And then he also showed insane pace. And yeah, I was kind of stuck at P3 at that point. And yeah, I mean, even if the race doesn't go your way, I'm just happy to be out here because I can't always be out here due to my schedule. So yeah, just happy to be here.
Yeah, I will say, and this is honest, we kind of joke about it from time to time on the Americas broadcast, but if it makes you feel any better about trying to find some time in school to actually make it out here on the racetrack during the winter break, when I started off broadcasting, I would have to dip out of school a little bit early so I could be on the air for these Friday Radical broadcasts. So it's a good start for all of us. It teaches us time management and trying to do about 15 different things at once. But I want to ask you about that start, because the run down into turn number 1 looked rather disturbingly stressful, I think is probably the way that I would put it.
Yeah, I mean, getting swarmed by getting swarmed by the whole field, to be correct, isn't the greatest thing, but yeah, I just haven't driven the Radicals in so long, so my start is a little rusty. And yeah, I was able to get a good braking into the turn 1 to be able to keep that. But yeah, it was just car left, car right, car behind, cars everywhere. So yeah, most definitely a stressful start.
Yeah, just boxed in with Radical SR10s to get the green flag. But hey, you still walk away with a podium. Nice to see you out there on the racetrack for these officials. Now we're getting into the end of the winter break here, but I will keep my fingers crossed. We may see you back out there on the racetrack soon. Any other races throughout the season that we may potentially get a shot to see at? Any things that you have in mind?
I think it's going to probably be sometime in February is when I can next race. And even then I might not be able to, but fingers crossed sometime in February is when you'll next be able to see me.
Yeah, I know that we're also going to be getting the 2026 Radical Americas season up and rolling in the not too far off future as well, and looking forward to seeing you back out there on the racetrack for that. But Ryan, before we let you go and celebrate this podium, we'll let you give any thanks or shout outs.
I would like to give a thanks to this whole entire community for putting on these events. They're always so much fun whenever I do them. I'd like to also thank all of the racers out here today. You guys put on an incredible battles and showed some serious pace. Next time I do one of these, I certainly need to put in some more practice.
Well, practice always makes perfect, man. I love to see you out there on the racetrack, and looking forward to the next time we'll be able to see you there, Ryan. Thank you for joining us in the booth. Well done, the P3, and we hope to see you back out there on the racetrack at some point soon, man. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
And that was Ryan Oda, our P3 finisher. I'll pass it back off to you, JR.
Yeah, and what a great race. And speaking of great racing, you're going to want to mark this on your calendar, 2100 GMT next Friday. These Radical Warriors will be in Mexico City at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, and that one is going to be fantastic. It's another challenging track. It is a draft fest. There are some curbs that need to be negotiated, so you are not going to want to miss that race. It is going to be fantastic. And having said that, that is going to wrap us up for today, and I want to thank you so much for joining us for today's broadcast of 2026 Season 1, Week 3 of the Radical Esports Cup. And I am JR Gregory on behalf of myself, my partner, Racing Ron Mons, our producer, Ramiro Cisneros, and everyone here at RaceSpotTV. Happy New Year. Have a great Friday and an even better weekend.